Greetings, fellow cultivators. Welcome to Audio Nova. Remember to like and subscribe to support the journey. Today, we're diving into the story of what's the point of cultivating immortality if you don't have money. As another cultivation method's practice duration exceeded 30 hours, Xiong Yu's divine spiritual root within his body trembled slightly, as if it had devoured the cultivation method as nourishment. It was at this moment that Xiong Yu looked at the Dao seed spectrum in the Yu book, and the Dao seed named Kingly Sword embryo finally appeared. Kingly Sword embryo level 2. Finally successful. Seeing this scene, Xiong Yu's heart stirred. This divine spiritual route from Bai Zhenjin was arguably the first military level power he possessed, filling his heart with infinite anticipation. Next, he continuously sensed the information contained within the Dao seed, while gradually testing the function of this divine spiritual root in his dantian, beginning to comprehensively summarize its mysteries. In fact, during these past few days, although Xiong Yu hadn't extensively explored the abilities of the Kingly Sword embryo, he had more or less noticed its effects while continuously circulating cultivation methods to nourish the spirit root. Now, by sensing the Dao seed, his efforts were even more effective, allowing him to gradually grasp the various mysteries of the Kingly Sword embryo. The characteristic of the level 2 Kingly Sword embryo is still adaptation, but it possesses an adaptation ability far stronger than during the heavenly spiritual root period. This adaptation, or rather, enhancement, is a long-term adjustment of the body. For example, a Zhen diligently cultivated the art of sword control, and the Kingly Sword embryo continuously adjusted her body, bit by bit, strengthening her reaction speed, thought speed, mana mobilization efficiency, and other aspects, continuously enhancing her sword control ability, allowing her to make rapid progress in swordsmanship. But if it adapts to everything, allowing the physical body to adapt to the effects of various medicines, to adapt to external tempering, to adapt to the influence of Taoist arts, then gradually, medicines become difficult to affect the cultivator, rendering them ineffective. If the body isn't damaged during cultivation, various cultivation methods become difficult to change oneself. If Taoist arts are difficult to exert influence, then the power of Taoist arts cannot be applied to oneself. Adapting to everything will only make cultivation progress slower and slower, or even lead the cultivator astray. Xiong Yu thought to himself, the adaptation of the Kingly Sword embryo is definitely not a blind, all-encompassing adaptation, but a selective adaptation. The direction of selection is determined by the user's state and intention. For example, a Zhen wanted to hide her spirit root, so day after day, she was continuously strengthened with increasingly powerful hiding abilities. Later, she focused on cultivating martial arts, so her martial arts aptitude began to be enhanced by the Kingly Sword embryo. And in high school, a Zhen awakened the Kingly Sword embryo's deduction ability, which was a manifestation of this adaptive enhancement. At that time, she could deduce cultivation methods, change level 10 effects, and obtain effects more suitable for herself. Now that the Kingly Sword embryo is used by me, what direction will it push me towards? Originally, Xiong Yu thought that the Kingly Sword embryo would gradually enhance his civil engineering, cultivation, methods, with each job and overtime session. But he soon realized he was wrong. The Kingly Sword embryo is enhancing my chain method diagram sets. At first, Xiong Yu felt puzzled by this, but soon he gradually understood the reason. The Kingly Sword embryo performs adaptive enhancement in the direction the cultivator focuses on improving. And during the process of switching my chain method diagram sets, did it drastically change my physique and various aptitudes. This drastic change after switching sets stimulated the Kingly Sword embryo's adaptive enhancement, making the Kingly Sword embryo think I was growing in this direction. So the Kingly Sword embryo's adaptive enhancement adjusted my body to strengthen the effects of the sets. The previous true spiritual route didn't seem capable of this. Is this something that can only be done after evolving into a divine spiritual root? Switching to the University Saint body, the true spiritual root began to strengthen my cultivation method practicability. Switching to the Earthwood Saint body, it strengthens various resistances and reduces lifespan consumption. Switching to key vein elongation, it strengthens mana recovery, speed, and reduces consumption efficiency. Xiong Yu could feel that although this process was very subtle and slow, the Kingly Sword embryo was indeed performing adaptive enhancement, according to the direction of the sets. When he realized this, a surge of pleasant surprise filled Xiong Yu's heart. He realized that the Kingly Sword embryo's help to him would be unprecedented. This was because the Kinglian sword embryo's adjustments and enhancements to the body were long-lasting. Does this mean that even if I switch from the university saint body to the earthwood saint body, the Kinglian sword embryo's enhancement of my learning ability will still be retained? Doesn't that mean, with the existence of the Kinglian sword embryo, I can always retain a portion of the set effects on my body? Xiong Yu had always attached great importance to the effects of the chain method diagram sets. However, the biggest problem with the chain method diagram sets was that only one set could be used at a time, and they were difficult to be compatible with each other. But if the Kinglian sword embryo's enhancement allowed his body to possess a portion of the set effects under normal circumstances, it would undoubtedly be a qualitative leap in Xiong Yu's strength. Xiong Yu exhaled deeply, suppressing the surprise and excitement in his heart, and began to summarize the effects of the Kinglian sword embryo. For me, the greatest effect of the Kinglian sword embryo is to strengthen my set effects. Secondly, even after I remove a set, I can still retain a portion of the set effects. But how much it can ultimately strengthen and retain is still unknown. It will require several months, or even several years, of slow cultivation to know the result. There are also some abilities that have reached the foundation establishment limit after switching sets. Even if the Kinglian sword embryo adjusts my body, it seems unable to enhance them further. For example, the peak foundation establishment medicine load capacity brought by the university saint body, and the peak foundation establishment digestion capacity, the Kinglian sword embryo seems unable to strengthen them anymore. Xiong Yu could feel that due to the varied effects of the sets, the results of the Kinglian sword embryo's adaptive enhancement on different effects of different sets would clearly be vastly different. He would need to slowly familiarize himself and comprehend this in his future cultivation. But regarding this, Xiong Yu merely showed a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. Was this feeling of sensing his own powerful mysteries not a kind of happy trouble? With the Yu book and the Kinglian sword embryo, how strong will I be in a few years? It's truly something to look forward to. Of course, there are also the Kinglian sword embryo's hiding and deduction abilities. The former brings powerful combat and stealth capabilities, while the latter makes cultivation methods stronger by another layer. There was another thing that made Xiong Yu feel curious and anticipated the next upgrade of the Kinglian sword embryo. To upgrade the Kinglian sword embryo to level 3, it requires the nourishment of 10 level 30 cultivation methods. Phew. This must be something that can only be done in the golden core stage, right? Xiong Yu shook his head. Although he was full of anticipation for this, he also understood that it was definitely not something that could be achieved in a short period. Furthermore, before having sufficient strength, letting a Xiong's Kinglian sword embryo upgrade again to early, exposing it under the nose of the seven emotions divine lord, is probably not a good thing. At the simulated construction site, as class time ended, Gong Shujin, Yingzhen, and others slowly left the area together. Gong Shujin glanced at the crowd, curious in his heart. Xiong Yu has been taking leave these past few days, what has he been up to? Also, at yesterday's banquet, he only focused on eating and didn't even take the opportunity to meet some friends from other universities. Although eating is very important, yesterday was a rare opportunity. Gong Shujin always felt that Xiong Yu's performance seemed a bit listless. At yesterday's banquet, everyone was a competition participant from a top university, each one a super academic among super academics, possessing rare resources from other universities. Many were even more impressive than Xiong Yu and Ji Yuanshu. In Gong Shujin's view, every additional friend like this was an additional point of immortal Tao potential. Not to mention exchanging resources from their respective universities, it also meant one more person they could borrow money from. For example, he added over a dozen friends yesterday, which could be considered a small increase in immortal Tao potential. Just then, Gong Shujin's gaze sharpened as he looked towards a figure, standing outside the simulated construction site. That person is. He remembered the person it was when Wu Yari from Tianjin University, an academic who participated in the flying sword competition just like Bai Zhenjin, and a successor of another nascent soul lord. Although his popularity on the spiritual world network this time wasn't as high as Bai Zhenjin's, Gong Shujin remembered that his competition ranking this time was even higher than Bai Zhenjin's. Was it 15th place? What is he doing at the simulated construction site? When Wu Yari was here to find Bai Zhenjin. Just before the Tianjin University team was about to leave, Bai Zhenjin had disappeared again. So he came to where Zhang Yu had class, wanting to see if Bai Zhenjin was nearby. As Wen Wui's gaze swept over the people in the foundation establishment class, a figure walked up to him. It was Ji Yuanshu from the 6th level. As the student with the best grades and highest background present, Ji Yuanshu believed himself to be the most suitable person to approach Wen Wuyi. Incidentally, he also wanted to see if he could take this opportunity to connect with a nascent soul, disciple, from the 10th level like Wen Wuyi. If I can add him as a friend, or even take a photo and post it on my social media, my luck should increase significantly. Ji Yuanshu recalled the methods in the luck Dao starts. There was once a senior from the financial department who went around taking photos with powerful individuals, making many people believe he had extensive connections and knew many rich people. As a result, his luck greatly increased, and his cultivation progressed rapidly. The only pity was that he ultimately couldn't withstand the backlash. Ji Yuanshu spoke. "Hello, I am Ji Yuanshu from the Civil Engineering Department of Wanfa University. Do you need something?" In Wen Wui's eyes, whether it was Ji Yuanshu, Kong Shujin, or Yingxin beside him, there was no difference. As long as they entered the Civil Engineering Department, they were all merely civil engineering workers. Even if Wen Wuyi knew about their so-called 2nd level, 4th level, 6th level backgrounds, he wouldn't care. In his eyes, as a 10th level person, weren't they all from the lower levels? And whenever he heard these lower level people distinguishing among themselves, he found it amusing and lamented the severe hierarchical discrimination among the lower levels. In contrast, 1st level people were a bit more special in Wen Wui's eyes, possessing a sense of rarity, a feeling of being from a primitive, wild land. When Wen Wuyi glanced at Ji Yuanshu and said indifferently, "I'm looking for Zhang Yu, is he not here?" Ji Yuanshu was slightly taken aback, not understanding why the other party was looking for Zhang Yu. He continued speaking, wanting to talk a bit more, inquire about the reason, and add him as a friend along the way. But when Wuyi frowned, finding the Ji Yuanshu in front of him very noisy. And he had seen too many people trying to get close like this, so he had a relatively mature way of handling it. Simplified version of the immobilization talisman activate. As when Wui's mind moved, the talisman automatically cast, silently taking effect on Ji Yuanshu. Ji Yuanshu's body trembled, and he stood motionless on the spot. "Please remain standing still and quiet. You will receive 3 spiritual coins after 2 minutes and 59 seconds. Please remain standing still and quiet. You will receive 3 spiritual coins after 2 minutes and 58 seconds. Looking at the line of text that appeared in his eye bone, a hint of struggle flashed in Ji Yuanshu's eyes, but in the end, he chose to stand still and shut up. If it were him a few months ago, he might have chosen to break free from this immobilization talisman, but now, in order to bear the backlash of luck, his funds were already tight. Besides, the immobilization talisman is just a warning. If I really break free, what awaits me next? I'm afraid it won't be spiritual coins." Thinking of this, Ji Yuanshu silently chose to endure. Feeling the instability of the mental cultivation method in his mind, Ji Yuanshu quickly thought to himself, think of it from another angle. It's not that when Wuyi immobilized me with 3 spiritual coins, it's that he paid 3 spiritual coins, and only then did I let him pass. Standing for 3 minutes to earn 3 spiritual coins, isn't this also a kind of victory? As Ji Yuanshu continued to think, his mental cultivation method gradually stabilized again. A hint of joy appeared in his heart. This is good. Isn't a low point in life also a form of tempering? Use this to polish my Dao heart, make my thoughts more smooth and flawless, so that the mental cultivation method can adapt to various situations. To shine brightly in the financial department, one needs this kind of indomitable, never give up, and always optimistic spirit. Meanwhile, when Wu Yanyi had already arrived in front of Gongshu, Jin, and the others and asked, "Do you know where Zhang Yu is?" Gongshu Jin, Yingxin, and the others looked at each other, seemingly not expecting this nascent soul, disciple, to be looking for Zhang Yu. Yingxin spoke first. "Zhang Yu should be at the construction site." When Wuyi's gaze shifted, and he said, "Lead the way." Watching everyone lead the way for Wen Wuyi, Li Zhao, before leaving, glanced at Ji Yuanshu, who was standing motionless, and wondered, what's wrong with him? Was he perhaps hit hard by Wen Wuyi? Looking at Ji Yuanshu's lonely back, Li Zhao felt as if he was seeing himself, and sighed in his heart, if you can't blend in, don't force it. Faster. Faster. Yuzi. Wu. Bai Zhenzhen took a deep breath, feeling her true spiritual root completely return and stabilize. She suddenly frowned and said, "How come the change feels particularly big this time?" Zhang Yu thought to himself, it's because he repeatedly switched all the chain diagram sets this time, constantly observing the changes in the kingly and sword embryo. But naturally, he couldn't tell by Zhenjin about these things. Zhang Yu could only hold her and say, "Thinking you were about to leave, I cultivated intensely with the true spiritual root on this last night. Maybe I stimulated it a bit too much." Listening to Zhang Yu's answer, Bai Zhenjin also turned around and hugged him, saying, "Yuzi, I have to go. You must work hard to cultivate, study hard, and transfer from the civil engineering department to the refining department as soon as possible." Bai Zhenjin looked fixedly at Zhang Yu in front of her and said seriously, "Don't forget, you promised me that we would participate in the 10 Academies League together." Zhang Yu nodded seriously, "Don't worry, Ajen, not only will I participate in the 10 Academies League, I will also stand at the strongest position in the 10 Academies League and obtain the right to use the immortal level skill." If anyone else heard Zhang Yu's words, they would probably just laugh their heads off, lamenting Zhang Yu's overestimation of his abilities. But Bai Zhenjin was listening carefully to Zhang Yu's words. Through 3 years of getting along in high school, she understood Zhang Yu better than anyone else. She knew that Zhang Yu possessed talent beyond everyone's imagination. And beneath his seemingly calm state, there was an ambition to climb to the peak of the immortal Tao, and even enter a sect. Whether facing the righteous God, facing Mr. Wang, facing any rich person, Bai Zhenjin could feel that deep down in Zhang Yu's seemingly humble heart, he had never truly completely yielded. Listening to Zhang Yu's words at this moment, Bai Zhenjin couldn't help but smile. "Yuzi, you're always like this, daring to set goals that others wouldn't even dare to think about, goals that sound completely impossible. But I just feel that you have the possibility of succeeding." Just then, Zhang Yu looked at the message appearing in his eye, bone, and raised an eyebrow, "A message from Yu Xing'an. When Wu Yai went to the construction site to find me." Bai Zhenjin sighed, "I should go too. Yuzi, I'll wait for you at the 10 Academies League." Zhang Yu felt her hug him tightly, and then the next moment, she disappeared accompanied by flashes of electric light. Zhang Yu's hand brushed through the flickering electric light in the air, seemingly still feeling the warmth Bai Zhenjin had left on him just moments ago. Again. At the construction site on the 667th floor. When Wu Yai looked at Zhang Yu in front of him and said, "Didn't Zhenjun come to find you either? Where did she go? It's already past the departure time." Just then, when Wu Yai received a message from the team leader teacher, saying that Bai Zhenjun had already returned to the team. So when Wu Yai said goodbye to Zhang Yu, and planned to leave. Before leaving, he patted Zhang Yu's shoulder and said, "I'll still have to trouble you with that matter. Don't worry, as long as I see results, spiritual coins are not a problem." Kong Shujin, Yingxin, and the others nearby were all extremely surprised to see Wen Wenyaoi chatting and laughing with Zhang Yu before leaving. Yingxin's heart trembled. Senior apprentice brother has already established connections with a nascent soul successor. She thought about quickly taking a photo with her eyed bone, taking a picture of Zhang Yu and the other party, and then taking a picture of herself and Zhang Yu later, which would count as an indirect photo with a nascent soul successor. But looking at the photo taken, she found that Wen Wenyao's figure had become a blurry mosaic that was difficult to discern with the naked eye. Yingxin thought to herself, "Is it an exorcism talisman? Sigh, I can't take his picture without permission." On the other side, Gong Shujin reported the situation to Talishan. Talishan was also surprised after hearing about it and reported the information to Director Gao. Since it involved a nascent soul lord, Director Gao immediately sent a message to Zhang Yu. "Director Gao, how do you know Wen Wuyai?" Zhang Yu, "I met him at the banquet. He was quite interested in civil engineering, and asked me some questions, which I answered. Zhang Yu, after some back and forth, we added each other as friends." Director Gao was slightly taken aback. When Wen Yao interested in civil engineering. Just as Director Gao was highly skeptical about this, Zhang Yu sent over his chat history with Wen Wuyai. Wen Wuyai, what factors affect the bearing capacity of foundations? Wen Wuyai, what measures can improve the seismic performance of structures? Wen Wuyai, are there any other interesting civil engineering stories? Wen Wuyai, tell me a few more. Looking at the messages Wen Wuyai sent to Zhang Yu, Director Gao couldn't help but exclaim, "What a promising civil engineering talent." Alas, it's a pity he was forcibly twisted away by Tianjin University people to the Flying Sword Department. But it's also good. If this person really joined the civil engineering department, the civil engineering competition in the next few years would be troublesome. Director Gao now understood that Zhang Yu's relationship with the nascent soul disciple was very fragile, only slightly better than a nodding acquaintance. But in any case, it's a channel to communicate with a nascent soul lord from Tianjin University. Having it is better than not having it. Director Gao knew that at Tianjin University, the main combat faction held absolute dominance. Their flying sword department wished for floors 1 to 10 to be in chaos, so they could sell flying swords to all forces. Thinking for a moment, Director Gao replied again, if anyone asks you about today's matter in the future, just say you are friends with Wenwu Yang. Director Gao, as for how you met, just say I told you not to say. Zhang Yu, okay, I understand. Director Gao, if you have time, you can chat with Wenwu Yang more often. And just as Director Gao finished talking with Zhang Yu not long after, he received a message from Magnetic Pole True Monarch. Magnetic Pole True Monarch, old Gao, you've connected with a nascent soul from Tianjin University. Looking at the message from Magnetic Pole True Monarch, Director Gao couldn't help but smile. Seeing Zhang Yu connect with Wenwu Yang, many guys will definitely not think it's Zhang Yu's reason, but will guess it's the influence I brought, thinking that to disciples who are completely unrelated must represent the sex behind them. Director Gao replied, sort of. Director Gao knew that Magnetic Pole True Monarch had always been very interested in Tianjin University's various flying, sword refining technologies. He had even more ideas about Tianjin University's strategies and plans in the university war. As expected, after seeing Director Gao's reply, Magnetic Pole True Monarch sent several more messages in quick succession. Director Gao couldn't help but chuckle. Meanwhile, Ji Yuanshu also received a message from Director Lin. Director Lin Wenwu Yang from Tianjin University came to find Zhang Yu. Ji Yuanshu, yes, I saw it with my own eyes. Director Lin thought to himself, did that guy old Gao really hook up with those crazy people from Tianjin University? Does this guy want to drag Wanfa into the mud too? And this Zhang Yu, being sent to do this kind of thing, it seems he really thinks highly of him. At the same time, Ji Yuanshu sent another message, Master, how will the competition be arranged? Director Lin, for the civil engineering competition, I will help you arrange the order. Director Lin, you will eliminate Zhang Yu's team in the first round. Seeing the message, Ji Yuanshu's eyes narrowed, and a fierce fighting spirit ignited within them. It's finally here. My chance to redeem myself and regain my luck. A moment later, loan applications from various platforms appeared in Ji Yuanshu's iPhone, cashing out all his remaining immortal potential at this moment. Then he invested everything, preparing for the competition battles. In the blink of an eye, several days passed, and the time came to early December, the day the civil engineering department's internal competition began. This was the day the civil engineering competition began. Inside the operating room, Ji Yuanshu looked at his brand new arms, a satisfied smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. Information about his new arms surfaced in his mind. Thunderfire Dual Roar, a law body arm from the Thunder Law series, produced by the top-tier law body company, 10,000 Paths Artisan Sect. Both left and right arms can undergo high temperature and electromagnetic reinforcement, and through external meridian extension, reshape the external true key to create true key cannons with a range exceeding 500 meters. While recalling this in his mind, Ji Yuanshu had already used his iPhone to take photos of the Thunderfire Dual Roar, uploaded them to a social platform, and added the caption New Day, Diligent Cultivation. Looking through his past updates, one could see photos of various immortal Dao products, all of which Ji Yuanshu had acquired for himself after the final exams, spending a large amount of spiritual coins. There was the 6th generation soul-chasing eye from 10,000 Paths Artisan Sect, which could preset targets, lock onto high-speed targets, and link with the reactions of other law body parts to achieve automatic aiming and attacking. There was the Xiong wind low-altitude flight component for the legs, which created storms through the injection of high-speed airflow, allowing for low-altitude flight, instant acceleration, high-speed movement, and turning, supporting flight up to 3 times the speed of sound. There was also the feathering core from Tiangong Group, which, in addition to built-in level 20 martial arts, could also achieve self-anti-gravity enhancement, further reinforcing the low-altitude flight component of the legs. The copper coin that had suppressed his luck in his mind had now been replaced by another magical treasure. It was a card-shaped magical treasure, now quietly floating in Ji Yuanshu's mind, suppressing his luck for him. The magical treasure was named Platinum Luck Suppression Card. Unlike the original luck magical treasure that mimicked the shape of ancient copper coins, this luck magical treasure's design was inspired by credit cards from 100 years ago. The simple card body design, along with the old-fashioned graphics on the front and back, respectively symbolized nobility, credit, and strong economic power. Under the operation of the Platinum Luck Suppression Card, the backlash of luck on him was weakened, and the original 2-month backlash period was evenly distributed into a 12-month backlash period. And as he acquired more and more lot bodies, as he repeatedly flaunted various expensive immortality products, more and more people felt his financial power, believed in his strength, and this allowed him to gather more and more luck. Especially after Ji Yuanshu recalled the evil god ritual he had secretly performed after the final exams. Since that ritual, he had been able to condense luck faster, as the number of law bodies on him increased. And with the help of the evil god, his fan growth rate in the past 3 months far exceeded the past, gaining hundreds of thousands of followers. Each time he flaunted his wealth, he could condense a considerable amount of luck. This allowed Ji Yuanshu not only to quickly recover from the various after effects of the luck backlash, but also to make vigorous progress all the way. The concentration of luck under the Platinum Luck Suppression Card was even stronger than during his final exams, enhancing his abilities in all aspects. And through the operation of the Platinum Luck Suppression Card, the effect of the luck enhancement was also elevated layer by layer. But to achieve all this, to constantly flaunt his wealth and replace his lot bodies, Ji Yuanshu also consumed a large amount of spiritual coins, not only nearly depleting his savings, but also borrowing a considerable amount of spiritual coins. Even the Dingfeng bead he often used had long since been sold by him. Without the Dingfeng bead, he could only smell the air of Kongshu's second layer every day. Unconsciously, I've also gotten used to the smell of poverty in the university city. This is growth after tempering, I suppose. Smelling this scent of poverty, he deeply etched it into his mind. He constantly told himself that the hardships he was enduring now were all for a better future. Xiong is just the beginning. Feeling the constantly surging luck in his mind, Ji Yuanshu believed his future was infinitely vast. He would be like many seniors in the financial department. As he continuously accumulated fans and condensed luck, more and more people would believe in him, follow him, and obey him. Eventually, a single thought, a single word, would be able to change the hearts of hundreds of millions of people, guide the flow of countless spiritual coins, and control where luck gathered. Ji Yuanshu understood that he no longer needed to worry about Xiong. The civil engineering department was just an insignificant stop in his life. His future lay in the broader world of finance. Glancing at the time, and seeing that the competition was about to start, he stood up, walked out of the operating room, and headed towards the competition venue. Ma Zhuan and others had already arrived at the venue. Seeing Ji Yuanshu approaching, a smile appeared on his face. He had been watching Ji Yuanshu's strength grow during this period, which made Ma Zhuan increasingly certain that keeping him back, then, was the right decision. Inside a 1-square-meter meditation capsule, accompanied by the sound of a bell, Che Yangfei slowly opened his eyes. Che Yangfei hadn't worked for 3 consecutive days. For these 3 days, he hadn't worked overtime. He just studied normally during the day, and then meditated all night. This was the first time since entering university that he hadn't worked for over 72 hours. The reason for this was the upcoming civil engineering competition. He chose to rest and recuperate. He wanted to save more energy and physical strength for the competition, to avoid being willing but unable during the match, or even suddenly dying. So, for these 3 days, he forced himself not to work overtime, not to work, not to earn money, watching as his spiritual coins decreased daily with no increase, while he could only painfully rest and recuperate. All of this tormented Che Yangfei's heart. It's really hard to endure. As expected, resting is the most challenging test for one's Tao heart. If I can't find a job after graduation, will I have to live such a painful life every day? Thinking of this, Che Yangfei couldn't help but tremble and shiver. And to find a good job after graduation, Che Yangfei was determined to get a top 10 ranking in this civil engineering competition. After all, I'm already in my 7th year of university. If I can't get a competition ranking even after graduating, It will probably be difficult to find a good job on the second layer in the future. Xiong knew he was poor, so he couldn't participate in competitions in his lower and middle years. He accepted that. But having finally made it to his 7th year, he didn't aim for a high ranking. He would be satisfied with just a top 10 placement. Glancing at the time, Xiong took a deep breath, feeling his body restored to peak condition. He crawled out of the meditation capsule and headed towards the competition venue. On the way, he met Xiong. Looking at the brand new hand-law body on the other's right hand, he showed a hint of envy. Xiong, Visra Mysterious Creations Limitless Palm. Didn't you always use a local one? Xiong smiled and extended his left hand, saying, the local one was replaced with this hand. Xiong's eyes moved. Then your original left hand. Xiong said, I sold it. Otherwise, how could I have paid in full for this limitless palm? He sighed, after all, it's something I've tempered for so many years. I got a good price this time, so it wasn't for nothing raising it for so many years. Once I replace all this flesh and blood with blood bodies, I won't have to worry about being coveted anymore. Xiong looked at Xiong with some envy. Both had flesh and blood, but the other's flesh could be sold as food, adding factors like deliciousness and freshness, which resulted in a much higher price. Although the risk of holding it also increased, the profit was high. When the two arrived at the venue, they saw their captain, Xiong, already waiting at the main entrance, waving at them. Xiong was in a very good mood today, simply because she had finally temporarily solved the side effects of her ghost kidney. Thinking of this, she secretly felt grateful to Xing. It was thanks to his reminder that she caught a wave of rising 7 emotions coin prices. Next time I'll find him for a massage, support his business. And I also need to thank Teacher 2 for lending me money to speculate on coins. Recalling last year's stock speculation which almost led to bankruptcy, Talishan still trusted her this time. Xiong felt a surge of emotion, and Talishan's reply echoed in her mind again. Stock and coin speculation are legitimate matters. If I didn't lend you money for this, wouldn't I be unworthy as a teacher? Take the money. The interest can be calculated according to consumer loans. This time, the profit from the 7 emotions coin allowed Xiong to buy a ghost-suppressing seal. After inserting it into her internal organs, it could be used specifically to deal with her kidney that had residual wool. Just then, a message popped up in her eye bone. It was from the soul cultivator in the ghost-suppressing seal. Soul cultivator boss, the competition hasn't started yet. Can I go out for a while? Xiong, I agreed with you for one day. Xiong, I've hired many soul cultivators. Don't treat me like an idiot, thinking you can work 2 jobs at once. Xiong knew these soul cultivators always tried to find ways to work multiple gigs, so she naturally wouldn't let him leave. After all, the current soul cultivator in the ghost-suppressing seal was the original owner of her ghost kidney and an expert at suppressing it. After reprimanding the soul cultivator, Xiong sent a message to the competition team's group chat. Why, aren't you here yet? Wanfa University City, 88th floor. Zhang Yu slowly exhaled, finally pushing the 6 martial arts of the martial Dao Holy Body to level 20 just before the competition. Beginner martial Dao Holy Body, any foundation establishment stage martial arts displayed in your hands will have their combat power greatly increased. Oh. Zhang Yu's eyes moved slightly. He remembered that a similar effective combat power increase in the key refining stage martial Dao Holy Embryo was the last layer. Does the first layer of the foundation establishment stage martial Dao Holy Body increase the practical power of martial arts? Is this considered the change from the key refining stage to the foundation establishment stage, from the martial Dao Holy Embryo to the martial Dao Holy Body? However, Zhang Yu was not disappointed. Instead, he felt it was better this way. After all, his current physical defense was extremely strong, to the point where he felt it was excessively tanky. He needed some other means to expand his strength. This first layer of the martial Dao Holy Body might have a miraculous effect in this civil engineering competition. Looking at the urging messages from his eye bone, Zhang Yu smiled slightly. With a flash of his figure, he darted into the anti-gravity channel, shooting up like a bolt of lightning, and arrived at the entrance of the venue in the blink of an eye. Xiong looked at Zhang Yu before her, and pulling him along, said, let's go, let's go. The first round of the knockout stage is about to start. Listening to Audio Nova. Following Shi Huayu and the others into the arena, Zhang Yu saw a massive plaza appear before his eyes. The competition was divided into two parts, building and civil engineering, held in two different arenas. The one Zhang Yu was currently in was, of course, the civil engineering arena. Civil engineering department students from various grades gathered here, standing in groups of 2 or 3, waiting for the competition to officially begin. Almost everyone who came to this arena to compete was wealthy. They were all top students and elites from every grade. Various rankings, like top 50, top 30, and top 10 in the entire department, appeared in the air. Law bodies of various colors and signs shimmered under the lights. The dense foundation establishment domains, if not ignored, would likely keep popping up, filling the entire field of vision on the eye bone. There were also various projections from the spirit realm, some calling teams to assemble, some advertising, some just for fun, some creating special effects for themselves. It made Zhang Yu feel dizzy. It was also Zhang Yu's first time seeing so many civil engineering department elites gathered in one place. He couldn't help but exclaim, "There are really a lot of people participating in the competition." Shi Huayu said, "Of course, after all, it increases overall points. The higher one's ranking in the competition, and the more overall points one gets, the greater the impact on their ranking. Ordinary students don't need to consider these, but the top students in every grade will definitely participate." Speaking of this, Shi Huayu sighed, "The top students and excellent students from grades 8, 9, and 10 combined can form 6 or 7 teams, almost sweeping the top spots." Zhang Yu nodded slightly. Not every student in the higher grades had overwhelming strength after all. People like Chap371-375 were also in the 7th grade. Shi Huayu continued, with the top students from grades 4, 5, 6, and 7 leading the way, and picking people from various places, they can organize another 5 or 6 teams to compete for the top 10 spots. It's impossible for us to defeat the teams from the higher grades. Our opponents are those teams from the middle grades. We have to snatch a spot in the top 10 from them." As Shi Huayu said this, her tone became serious, and this year's competition will likely be even more intense. The others also nodded slightly. As civil engineering department students, they had also gradually felt an increasing sense of opposition in the past few months, and the conflict between the war faction and the peace faction was gradually becoming public. And this competition had clearly become the most suitable place for the two factions to contend. Shi Huayu had already seen staff members starting live broadcasts around the arena. She thought to herself, perhaps the performance in this year's civil engineering competition will directly affect the momentum of the two factions, influence the stock prices of the companies behind them, and even affect the future choices of the neutral faction. After all, if our war faction can occupy more of the top 3 and top 10 spots, we will inevitably generate greater influence, and thus gain more support from the neutral faction in the civil engineering department, gaining the upper hand in the future. And it's the same for the peace faction. Looking at these elite students in the plaza, looking at the department-wide rankings above their heads, whether it was Chap371-375, Xiong, Tianyang, Zhaoqingshuan, or others, they all felt a heavy pressure. Just then, Shi Huayu's steps gradually stopped. Looking at the figure before her, she said, "Su Yanyang." The young man Shi Huayu called Si Yanyang smiled slightly. His eyes seemed to have flames constantly burning within them, and a ball of light flickered on his chest, beating like a heart. Su Yanyang looked at Shi Huayu and said, "I didn't expect you, Huayu, to continue participating. But following such a group of old, weak, young, and poor people." Su Yanyang's gaze swept over Chap371-375, Xiong, Zhang Yu, and others, lingered slightly on Zhaoqingshuan, then subtly stepped back a few paces before continuing, "Your success rate of getting a ranking like this isn't high. Without this portion of overall points, if you can't get first place in your class next, is that really okay? For the sake of our old friendship, I can give you another chance. Pay spiritual coins to return to the team as a substitute, get some overall points, and maybe you'll still have a chance to snatch first place in the class." Shi Huayu pouted and said coldly, "You don't need to worry about me. You should worry more about yourself. Don't forget to pay up when you lose the lawsuit." Su Yanyang shook his head and sighed. "On the path of cultivation, acting on impulse is most taboo. That's why you failed in stock trading back then. Now, even forming a team for the competition is still so irrational. I think you'll go bankrupt again in the future." Looking at Xiong's departing back, Che Yufei asked curiously, "Was he on your previous competition team?" Shi Huayu said bitterly, "This guy crashed my kidney, and still refuses to pay." However, Shi Huayu let out a breath. It's best not to run into him before getting into the top 10. This guy is still very strong. Zhang Yu's gaze swept over Su Yarnyang's head, where the ranking of 29th in the entire department was displayed. This was clearly much stronger than Shi Huayu's 38th in the entire department. As all the contestants arrived, the civil engineering competition officially began. A handsome young man stood on the stage, looking at the many students below, and said, "It's time for the annual civil engineering competition again." Looking at the young man, Zhang Yu stared at the title appearing above his head, and thought to himself, the department head of the civil engineering department. Ling Yu Zhenjin, department head. Zhang Yu had heard Talishan mention this old department head, and knew that he was the true head of the civil engineering department. But he had also heard Talishan say, before, that the other party's lifespan was nearing its end, and he was about to die of old age. Yet, the Ling Yu Zhenjun, department head on the stage was completely in the image of a vibrant young man. Where was the dying of old age? Meanwhile, the Ling Yu Zhenjun, department head on the stage said, to cope with the changes of the new era, the university has decided to add more stakes to this civil engineering competition and increase the prizes. The top 7 teams in this competition will receive 2 spots each, and each will be granted one of the civil engineering 7 wonders cultivation methods. The allocation of these spots will be decided by the teams themselves. Hearing these words, the students below were slightly stunned, and the next moment, they started discussing among themselves. Zhang Yu exclaimed, "Civil engineering 7 wonders? The top 7 teams each get 2 people, that means 14 people will be granted the civil engineering 7 wonders?" He thought to himself, compared to the original system where only the first place in each class every year could be granted one of the civil engineering 7 wonders, this is a huge liberalization. And soon, Zhang Yu and many others present thought along the same lines. If they do this every year from now on, won't many people master the civil engineering 7 wonders and even the small 3 unifications? Even the Heaven Kunlun mountain moving divine power might be mastered by a few more people. Fuji commented, the cultivation methods went from being restricted to suddenly being opened up. Could it be preparation for a possible university war? This is the opportunity granted by the era, allowing you to cultivate the civil engineering 7 wonders more easily than the students before you. War is indeed a ladder of progress. It hasn't even truly started yet, and it has already given you more opportunities. Zhang Yu said, "Does that mean the war faction is gaining the upper hand in the civil engineering department?" Fuji said, "Not necessarily. The peace faction just doesn't want the 10 greats to go to war. It doesn't mean they don't want to master stronger power. Actually, if it were according to the civil engineering department's own wishes, I think regardless of whether they advocate for war or peace, they should hope to open up the civil engineering 7 wonders for more students to master. Only then can they earn more. Every department in the university is like this. They inherently want to constantly expand, control more resources, more students, and more powerhouses. So the past restriction and current opening up of the civil engineering 7 wonders, the policy changes in between, should come from a higher level of will, not entirely decided by the civil engineering department itself. Perhaps it's the College of Architecture and Civil Engineering above the civil engineering department, or the leadership of Wanfa University, or even the influence of the Wanfa sect. In short, the reason for doing this suddenly. Our current position is too low, lacking information channels, so there's no need to delve deeper. But the result will inevitably be that the competition in the civil engineering competition will become more intense. I see quite a few people on the scene already preparing to take out loans, or have magic treasures and law bodies delivered. Zhang Yu understood upon hearing this. Regardless of whether they advocated for war or peace, they would certainly hope for more students under them to master the civil engineering 7 wonders, and even the Heaven Kunlun mountain moving divine power. A moment later, the first round of elimination began. The plaza before them shifted, and various distorted and changing gravity fields appeared before everyone. Gravity fields changing constantly in direction and magnitude formed layers of obstacles. The content of the elimination round was simple. All students had to cross the complex gravity field, 1,000 meters wide, and their time taken was recorded. The times taken by the members of each competition team were added up to get the total time taken by each team. based on each team's total time. The top 20 teams with the best scores would remain for the next round of 20 into 10, while the rest would all be eliminated. Ling Yuzhenjun, department head, said calmly, in the financial department, the more money you have, the better you cultivate. As for our civil engineering department, the stronger the physical body, the better you cultivate. This first round of elimination is to weed out all the students whose physical bodies are lagging behind. As the first round of elimination began, students rushed into the gravity field, heading towards the finish line 1,000 meters away. But often, students who were moving quickly the previous moment, stirring up the sound of wind and thunder, would slow down sharply, and their bodies would become shaky the moment they rushed into the gravity field. And just as a group of students were struggling to advance in the gravity field, Xiong Yu felt a slight change in the surrounding gravity. The next moment, several figures, like streaks of black lightning, crossed the gravity field in an instant. Xiong Yu's gaze shifted. It's Mo Xiangjun. He had a fresh memory of this senior, who had mastered the Heaven Kunlun Mountain Moving Divine Power. Mo Xiangjun activated the Heaven Kunlun Mountain Moving Divine Power and, almost instantly, crossed the 1,000-meter gravity field with his 5 teammates. So strong. Just as Xiong Yu was sighing in his heart, the feeling of the gravity slightly changing struck again, and several other figures zipped through, carrying a sonic boom, passing through the gravity field. Is that another 10 grade student, who has mastered the Heaven Kunlun Mountain Moving Divine Power? Seeing this scene, Jiang Yu was slightly stunned, so he and Mo Xiangjun aren't on the same team. Fuji chuckled. Most likely one belongs to the war faction, and the other to the peace faction. This is internal conflict. They'd rather reduce the strength of their own team than cooperate with the other side. Jiang Yu shook his head. Mo Xiangjun's team, and that other grade 10 student's team, were too far away from him. What he needed to do now was still figure out how to quickly pass through the gravity field. Above the arena, projections from the spirit realm appeared one after another, standing in the void in a state invisible to the students, observing the situation in the arena below. These spirit realm projections were precisely from Director Gao and Director Lin of the Civil Engineering Department, as well as many other teachers and professors. Their main bodies were still continuing various different tasks in various places, some not even in the university town, but at this moment, they had all split off a thought to pay attention to the results of this competition. Even Ling Yuzhenjin, department head of the Civil Engineering Department, who had just been speaking on the stage, also projected a spirit realm projection here to facilitate communication with his colleagues. However, although these projections stood separately, they were subtly divided into 3 factions: the war faction, the peace faction, and the neutral faction of the Civil Engineering Department. But seeing the neutral faction leaning slightly towards the peace faction's position, Li Shen's brows furrowed unconsciously. He thought to himself, a bunch of fence-sitters. When I threw projects at you, you were all obedient like dogs. Now that the financial department has approved a little more loan, you've run back over there again. Li Shen looked at the arena below and thought, if the peace faction gains an advantage in the results of this competition, I'm afraid more teachers and students from the neutral faction will lean towards the peace faction. The interface of the stocks he held popped up in his eye bone, and he thought, in that case, the stock price will fall, right? Should I sell now? But after glancing at Director Garo beside him, he understood that if he sold out at this moment, he would definitely be targeted by Director Gao, so he could only silently give up. Besides, we might not necessarily lose. Li Shen thought to himself, at least the probability of Mo Xiangjun taking first place is very high. Director Gao has allocated most of the resources for cultivating students to him. If first place is secured, even if we fall behind in other rankings, it's not a big problem. After all, only after securing first place in the departmental competition can one represent the university in battle. Li Shen knew that the Inter-University League could earn more comprehensive points, allowing Mo Xiangjun to surpass his opponents faster and become the top student in the entire department. At the same time, other teachers were also commenting on the situation in the arena. Mo Xiangjun's Heaven Kunlun Mountain Moving Divine Power is becoming more and more proficient. I think Xuan Yangshan's Mountain Moving Divine Power is more profound, and it took less time. Is that a sophomore student? So fast as a sophomore? Li Shen looked in the direction a teacher was pointing and found that it was precisely Xiong Yu who had rushed into the gravity field. Xiong Yu let out a low roar, and as the mana within his body circulated, his muscles bulged with blue veins, his body temperature rapidly increased, constantly emitting hot steam, making his skin gradually turn crimson. With the activation of the War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill, Xiong Yu's physical strength instantly surged by 0.5 levels, reaching a level above 17. But this was only the beginning for Xiong Yu this time. He had decided to display the power of the level 20 War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill. After all, I have been cultivating this skill for more than 10 months, and reaching a level 20 standard now is not a big problem. Before making this decision, Xiong Yu had checked on the spiritual world network and found that it was not uncommon for people to cultivate the War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill to level 20 within a year. At least several people in Wanfa University had been able to do so in the past 20 years, and this was without many geniuses cultivating this skill. Given the talent I have displayed all along, exposing the level 20 War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill now is not a problem. This skill can temporarily increase my physical strength, which happens to make up for the gap between me and the upperclassmen in this regard. At the same time, Xiong Yu took a slow breath, then waved his hands and shook his legs, doing a simple warm-up before continuing to push the War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill. As blue veins bulged on his forehead, sweat constantly poured out of his body, and his heart pounded violently, as if a giant hammer was constantly beating a drum in his chest. Physical strength plus 1.0 level. Physical strength plus 1.5 levels. Physical strength plus 2.0 levels. Pushing the War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill to the limit of its second stage of eruption in one go. This was a move Xiong Yu had never easily used. Simply because this move caused great damage to the body, and using it during normal study or overtime was too uneconomical. But the current elimination round only required a moment of breakout, and Xiong Yu felt he could still handle it. And with the second eruption of the War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill, Xiong Yu's physical strength temporarily surged to above level 18.5, his entire body's skin crimson, as if dripping blood. Hoo! Xiong Yu exhaled slightly, and the hot airflow caused a distortion in the air. Feeling his overloaded body, Xiong Yu thought to himself that it was fortunate he had activated the Earthwood Saint body at this moment, and coupled with the physical activation of the Remnant Ox body sacrifice art, constantly healing his body, otherwise the lifespan reduction would be too severe. Although he could still use the pill poison eruption of the Spring-Autumn Endless Zen, Xiong Yu decided to save the accumulated pill poison in his body for the subsequent competitions. The next moment, Xiong Yu's figure flashed, accompanied by an explosive roar under his feet. His entire body had torn through the atmosphere, accompanied by the sound of a sonic boom, and plunged into the gravity field. Boom. The moment he rushed into the gravity field, Xiong Yu felt as if pairs of invisible large hands were pressing towards him from all around, dragging him upwards, or pulling him downwards, or pushing him in all directions. The chaotic, constantly changing gravity field tore at his body, seemingly wanting to tear his body into pieces. Only then did Xiong Yu understand why student, after rushing in, began to wobble as if they couldn't walk. Because they have to constantly change their posture to resist this chaotic gravity field. The next moment, Xiong Yu let out a low roar, and had already contracted his body, reducing his height and volume to decrease the area affected by the chaotic gravity field. Immediately after, the four-headed white ox in his mind let out a roar, and Xiong Yu's fourfold thinking was suddenly activated. With one layer of thinking as the master, the remaining 3 layers of thinking controlled the torso, hands, and feet respectively to adapt to the changing gravity field. Since being advised by Bai Zhenjin and Xiong Yu's conscious training, he was now more and more skilled at controlling his body with multiple layers of thinking. When used at this moment, it could not only allow the body to smoothly adapt to the changes in the gravity field from top to bottom, quickly adjust the force, but also allow various parts of the body to coordinate with each other, pushing himself to continue accelerating forward. Thus, Xiong Yu's figure paused slightly, and the next moment he sprinted forward, quickly surpassing one student after another. Above the arena, the spirit realm projections of the teachers emitted exclamations of admiration. This Xiong Yu is only a sophomore, yet he has such high physical strength. Look closely, this is not his true physical strength. He has activated the War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill. But judging by the commotion of him activating the War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill, this skill seems to have been pushed to level 20. A teacher checked the time Zhang Yu purchased the skill, and then said in surprise, he only started cultivating in August last year? Then he is extremely talented in this skill. Another teacher said, the key is that his body control is also very strong. After entering the gravity field, he was hardly affected and continued to accelerate, which shows that he can completely adapt to this sudden surge in physical strength. This represents very excellent martial arts talent. Just then, another teacher from the Peace faction said indifferently, what's the use of cultivating the war demon meteoric longevity skill? Well, the better you use it, the faster you die, the poorer you become, and the poorer you become, the more you cultivate. Xiong glanced at the other party, and found it was Wei Huai, a teacher of geology. He looked at Director Gao beside him, and saw that his slightly raised mouth had suddenly drooped. Xiong knew that Wei Huai was ostensibly talking about Zhang Yu, but in reality, he was talking about the conflict between the two factions' roots. He immediately stepped forward and said, that's incorrect. People's physiques are different. How can you generalize? Zhang Yu has a strong innate physique, and took several servings of lifespan-reducing medicine daily in his freshman year. The War Demon Meteoric Longevity skill, which is a great burden for others, is nothing to him. Desperation is his best way out. By relying on desperation, he was able to win first place in his class at the end of his freshman year with lower financial expenditure. Just as Xiong was halfway through his words, he saw a red figure pierce through the entire arena below. Zhang Yu only felt his eye bone flash slightly, and a red projection had already appeared in front of him, like a runway, penetrating the entire gravity field. At the same time, a male voice came to everyone. This is my path forward. When I pass through at 5 times the speed of sound, please stay still so you don't get hit. The next moment, accompanied by a burst of light and fire soaring into the sky, a crimson figure like a meteor piercing the sun, carrying a surging airwave, crashed into the gravity field, leaving only a crimson afterimage, and in an instant, it had already reached the end of the gravity field. Boom. Reaching out to push away the incoming airwave, Zhang Yu looked at the other party's stopped posture and thought, Xiong. That's the guy who injured Shi Huaiyu. This guy is really a bit arrogant. And this law body of his isn't cheap, right? A guy with so much money is still unwilling to compensate Shi Huaiyu. Xiong didn't care about others' opinions, he just checked the time he had spent, and thought to himself, not bad. Then he gestured, and an iron coffin in the distance flew towards him. As the iron coffin opened, several rectangular streams of light flew out of it, and with clicking sounds, they transformed into law bodies for various parts of the body. At the same time, the law bodies on Xiong's body suddenly contracted and deformed, and after being replaced by the new law bodies, they automatically flew into the iron coffin. In an instant, he had completed the switch from a speed-type law body to a daily law body set, slightly twisted his head to adapt, and walked towards his teammates beside him. As for the iron coffin containing the log bodies, it floated quietly beside him. And in Xiong's eye-bone vision, lines of text appeared, which were the soul cultivators he had recruited into the log body to perform auxiliary work. In Xiong's opinion, this thing was much cheaper and easier to use than artifact spirits of the same intelligence level. The soul cultivator assisting the hand law body asked, Boss, how is it? Our auxiliary operation is not bad, right? Xiong replied, it's okay. Perform well. Among you 5, I will keep at most 1 as a full-time employee. Hearing these words, the 5 soul cultivators controlled by the auxiliary log body worked even harder. Xiong, feeling this scene, smiled slightly, but he knew. In fact, he wouldn't keep any of the 5 soul cultivators. Compared to hiring soul cultivators as full-time employees, he preferred probationary soul cultivators.